Welcome back, everyone. Pal Ponder on Weather here. In this update, we're going to be highlighting a big warm up on the way, as well as some record breaking temperatures. We are watching a storm complex move out of the west coast that will be traversing across the country, and a cold blast that will impact the Northeast this weekend. But I'm starting to get concerned about a possible severe weather setup as we head into that Tuesday and Wednesday timeframe of next week. So definitely make sure you hit the subscribe button as well as the like button. It definitely helps out this channel more than you know. So let's take a look at the satellite picture this morning, and we've got that storm complex that's been highlighted across the west coast over the last couple of days across Washington and Oregon, as well as much of California. In fact, this morning they just had a deluge down there in Los Angeles. They have already actually surpassed their annual rainfall total for the entire year in Los Angeles just in the first 52 days of this year. Over 14 inches of heavy rainfall. And at one point this morning, I was seeing rainfall rates of about 1.5 inches per hour. That is insane for them, for that area. Now, finally, that storm complex is on the move, but it's weakening big time. And it's going to hit this dry slot across the middle of the country where they are seeing a big time warm up. But we do have that storm complex that will be traversing across the country, that once it gets into the Missouri Valley, we should see some stronger thunderstorms and some heavier rains. But yesterday, it was the start of those record-breaking temperatures. In fact, those areas across Texas, across the central southern plains there, highlighted over Nebraska, did see some record-breaking temperatures all the way up into Iowa and even into Minnesota. And I think this is just the start of what's to come over the next 7 days. It's going to be plenty warm. It's going to feel a lot like April more than February. And look at the overall anomalies for today. There's that surge everywhere to the north, from the southern plains all the way to the coast of Canada there. Wow, you've got 15, 20 degrees, if not almost 25 degrees above average temperatures. So you're definitely going to be feeling the heat in a big way, but you're also going to be concerned about very dry conditions out there in West Texas. The winds are going to be cranking up. They have some isolated higher wind warnings across this region, and the humidity values go dangerously low. I'm talking single digits, if not almost 4 on the humidity values. That, in combination of those dry soils and those elevated temperatures, wow, we're looking at elevated, if not almost critical, fire risk for these regions across El Paso, into the Pecos region, down there in Alpine, all the way north into Albuquerque, as well as into the Texas Panhandle, into Amarillo. So definitely be on alert, as they have a red flag warning and high fire risk later on this afternoon with those dry vegetation, especially as the winds start to crank up across that region. But here's the overall jet stream as it traverses across, and as it does that, we do have a little bit of weakness underneath in the southern branch, and that's where we should see some colder air aloft. It could pick up some stronger thunderstorms activity later on this afternoon. And to the northern side, almost like a ridge rider effect, more likely what you would see in the summertime, with a ridge underneath and those storm complexes traverse on the northern periphery of that boundary. Kind of similar to what we're actually going to be seeing this afternoon, as right onto the northern side of there's that cold pocket aloft on the southern branch of that split flow of the jet stream down there in Springfield, Missouri. Those areas could see some stronger to isolated severe thunderstorms later on this afternoon. And then you have another pocket of energy further north around Indianapolis, just south of Chicago there, and just around the Springfield region. Those could be on the stronger side. But overall, your instability is really highlighted from Tulsa to St. Louis, all the way to Cleveland, as well as further south into Cincinnati, getting into Louisville, Kentucky. And then as we move into tomorrow timeframe, there's that pocket of energy. So not as strong as what you're going to be seeing today, but some of those could be picking up some stronger wind gusts and definitely some heavier rains. Now that pocket of energy will be highlighted over the Springfield region, over the Memphis region, back in down further south into Birmingham, into Alabama, into down there in Atlanta, all the way up into Huntsville, Nashville, into Knoxville, and further north into Cincinnati, as well as into the Jackson region in Kentucky. They should see some isolated, stronger wind gust, as well as some heavier rains out of that storm complex that will be traversing across. So as we head into your Friday time frame, there's the warmer conditions. That really doesn't go away for a good part of the country, but we do see the beginning stages of some of that colder air coming in from southeastern portions of Canada. That's the instability that's going to impact the Northeast as we head into the weekend. But further to the south, there's that storm complex as we go into that Friday afternoon. Now it's going to be moving out of Missouri, moving out of Illinois. Now it's going to be highlighted with some, half inch, some isolated inch totals across in portions of Alabama back into Georgia. Now it's going to be impacting the Carolinas, and that will move through West Virginia as well as into Pennsylvania here, back into Delaware, into New Jersey, and then portions of the I-95 corridor as it swings further north. It could tap into some of that colder air and have that changeover to snow, especially into Maine. But yeah, here's the overall dynamic system. I mean, these systems are just pretty progressive. There's really nothing to really block this piece of energy. Earlier in the week, this blocking mechanisms was much further south, and that was going to allow this system to kind of slow down, right? And if it did slow down, it was going to allow that split flow of the southern branch and the northern branch to actually merge. And if that were the case, we would have had a much bigger deal with more precipitation to work with for the Northeast as far as on the snow front. Now everything doesn't even merge. The southern branch moves offshore, and the northern branch, by times the cold air comes in with it, there's not much precipitation left to produce any abundance amount of snow. So you're definitely left with a pocket of 1 to 3 inches of snow that's highlighted over portions of New York, as well as into Massachusetts and Vermont and New Hampshire, but especially in Maine, should pick up about 1 to 3 inches of kind of a wetter snow with this particular setup. Because you got the southern branch further south that brings all the rain showers and the instability, but there's that northern branch, and the colder air is still well further off to the Northeast in Canada. It hasn't even actually arrived yet. Technically, it will arrive going into Saturday morning, so you're definitely going to feel it. I mean, this is a pretty strong cold blast from what you've been experiencing as of late. So these are your actual temperatures heading into Saturday morning across Ohio, right at about 20 degrees there, into Pennsylvania, right into New York here, as well as all the way up into Rhode Island, right at the freezing mark. But further north, where you do have the snow and you got the snowpack, you're talking single digits, and if not below zero coming in for those areas in Canada. And some of those below zero temperatures will likely sneak into Vermont and New Hampshire, but especially in the northern side of Maine as we head into your Sunday morning time frame, as that colder air will really start to entrench in Pennsylvania, all the way down into Virginia, and even the Carolinas actually see a freeze, but it's going to be a drier freeze coming in on the backside of that pretty strong cold blast for the weekend. But overall, here's your precipitation. And because of that system's well north and there's no blocking mechanism, the systems move fast. And when they move fast, there's not technically much precipitation with it. So once this storm complex moves inland from California, and once it gets over the Four Corners region, you're just talking some isolated rain showers. That's about it. And then once it hits the middle of the country, there's that dry slide. There's that big warm up and the record breaking temperatures that most of you are going to see for the good course of the next 5 to 7 days. You just have that instability. Could see some higher rain amounts across these areas of Kentucky and the southern portions of Illinois, as well as in Ohio, back into western PA, places like into Pittsburgh could pick up maybe 1.5 inches of rainfall. But overall, it's so fairly progressive that the heavier activity is actually out in the middle of the Atlantic. But what we're concerned about is as we head into next week, because we're going to get yet another strong Pacific jet coming in. We got another dynamic low pressure center that will be forming again off the west coast, and another jet stream that will be dipping. Now, this is going to be pretty significant because actually we even warm up even higher as we head into Monday and Tuesday timeframe, out ahead of this system. And as these systems kind of move across, they look to merge and kind of link up with each other, and you have that bowling ball type trough is what we're concerned about, likely trying to set up the day 6, day 7 time frame. So here's the setup right now for Monday. We're looking at high anomalies of 20, 25, almost upwards, almost 30 degrees above average, as that warm surge will be lifting all the way to the Canadian border. And look to the northwest there, right? You got those temperatures well below average, 25 degrees below average, starting to creep in from Western Canada. And that is going to be the clash that we're looking for as we go into that Tuesday timeframe. But out ahead of that, there's your record temperatures. Even right now, the National Weather Service is potentially calling for 20 records to be broken on your Monday timeframe, with widespread 80s, if not 90s, showing up in Texas. But look at the surge, folks. Arkansas, down there in Kansas, high 70s there. Even further north into Iowa, you're talking 70. This is the end of February, folks. And going into Minnesota, look at that, 55. That's crazy talk. For Wisconsin at 52 degrees. That's a record-breaking temperatures. And that's the piece of energy that system is going to be able to tap into. So we're definitely getting concerned, especially on the ensembles, even this far out, as we see this warm surge out ahead of it. So you got a pocket of this colder air, 20, 25 degrees above normal. And then you got completely the opposite of 20, 25 degrees below average. So right there within that clash, that's never a good sign, because you typically would likely have severe weather, if not tornadoes, that we got to be concerned about. So right now, the timing looks to be Tuesday, and maybe even Wednesday could be even more a significant event, because but definitely on the latest European run, we've been watching these runs coming together, and this is likely even the most bullish run that we've seen so far. So nothing to be greatly concerned about right now, because we still have to fine tune this. This is 6 to 7 days out, but right now we're just kind of looking at this and saying, hey, all the pieces of the puzzle are starting to kind of come together, that we got to be looking at this for that Tuesday, Wednesday timeframe, especially out ahead of it as this continues to move across. With this lapse rates further south, this would be a nasty type setup for potential tornadoes, unfortunately, across Tennessee and Kentucky there into southern portions of Illinois, maybe into Indiana. So if we're looking at the dew point, what this system has to be able to tap into, and yes, always look at that fine tune of 55. That's kind of your breaking point. And where you already know we got well above average temperatures, that typically fuels these thunderstorms. And then you got the clash, you got the cold pocket aloft, you got the shear at the surface. That spells trouble for all three modes of severe storms. And that's likely what's going to happen as we head into that Tuesday, Wednesday timeframe. Look at the dew point surge all the way almost 60 there in Illinois. That is crazy stuff. Higher 50s, even all the way up into Michigan. But further south, there's the concern of those lower 60s, if not mid 60s. So right now, the Storm Prediction Center does not have that risk highlighted. Again, this is the 6 days. This is a Tuesday setup. So likely as these start to clash together, this is where the instability would likely be. So we'll look for possible, the Storm Prediction Center likely highlighting this as we go into the tomorrow timeframe. But right now they don't. This is the actual learning model kind of hinting at that instability as this comes across. But definitely it appears Wednesday could be your even stronger day as it looks right now. So this could be a multiple day event as we move across in the next week. So we got plenty of time to fine tune this, but right now the favorite areas would likely be into eastern Texas, there in Arkansas, into northern portions of Mississippi, into Tennessee, but especially into Kentucky and those areas into Missouri, back into Illinois, as well as Indiana and Ohio. So we'll be fine-tuning this, right? So we'll be definitely fine-tuning this in the days ahead. Like I said, right now, this is what the Storm Prediction Center has. They haven't highlighted because this is day 7, right? This is very rare they highlight day 7 risk, especially in February. So we'll definitely be watching this in the days ahead. So I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video. Definitely hit the subscribe button and catch my next update. Why I protect you before and after the storm.